And he figured, well, in soul can inhabit the physical body, but it's not limited to the body as a prisoner, but it can even go to the astral plane, but moving in the soul form to the astral plane. Generally, a person, before he translates, will get to the mental plane before he goes. The deeper instruction comes from the inspiration you get from reading the Ek discourses, and then the real teaching comes on the inner planes as you, soul, move into the other areas, into the invisible worlds.
Hi, beautiful souls. My name is Beatrice, and I welcome you back to my Journey Faithful Compassion Hub. If you are new here, you'll find reflections, insights, and heart-centered discussions about spiritual growth, everyday life, and discovering more about who we are as soul. Today, I want to share reflections on spiritual growth and the patience it requires. But before I dive in, I want to let you know about an exciting event happening soon. In March, there will be an eckankar seminar taking place in Soweto, Johannesburg. Everyone is welcome, and if you are curious and want to know what it's all about, or you want to experience it for yourself, this is a perfect opportunity. Eckankar does not change your faith. It simply shares ways to experience the divine and connect with inner self. Everyone is welcome with an open heart and mind. So let's dive into today's reflection. If you have ever felt like your spiritual growth is taking too long, if you have ever wondered why clarity didn't come when you expected it, if you have ever felt frustrated, tired, or even doubted yourself, this part is for you, because slowness on spiritual path is not a punishment, it's a protection. So let's listen to Harold Clem.
Paul had a very difficult time figuring out a way to present eckankar to this society. He used to write about it, and the earliest references that I've come across in personal letters to eckankar was about 1960-61, right in there somewhere. He had tried to talk about it sooner, and he mentioned he had come across it with Rebazar Tars in 1951, and Sudar Singh probably in a more general way in 1935. But the teachings were difficult for him to bring out. He tried to write about them, nobody cared. And then he did his bookmarks, and he said somehow people someday needed to come to him, but how could he get people interested in him? So first he worked on the personality. He did his bookmarks recommended by Paul Twitchell and the Sour Grapes Award for books he didn't like, and things like this. But as he went on, he talked to one of these people who was in the public talks field, these people who went around giving talks on truth. And the guy talked to him and he said, Paul, you have everything any of these other people have. Why don't you take what you know on the lecture tour? In fact, just to get you started, why don't you go to the California Parapsychology Foundation? I'm sure you can get in there. And Paul did, All of a sudden he was giving workshops. At this time, he began to write for the New Cosmic Star. And then he figured, well, if it works at the first place, maybe it'll work at the New Cosmic Star. They also had people coming in and giving lectures on the premises or nearby. And so they let him have time to speak. And so he spoke on eckankar. In those days, he called it bilocation. But as he talked about it, he found that people mixed it up with astral travel. That you go out of the physical body, you do this horrendous separation, you drag the silver cord with you and all this, then you end up on the astral plane. But he went beyond the astral plane, and he said, people are making a mistake with bilocation. So he came up with the term soul travel. He saw it in two ways. First of all, by projection, a term which later he put on the shelf, as well as he did the term bilocation. And then he called it the movement of consciousness, which could go in several ways, where the soul is able to be in a higher state of consciousness and take on the body which is already operating there. In other words, there's the physical plane, the astral, causal, mental, etheric, and soul planes, and the planes above. And he figured, well, In soul, soul can inhabit the physical body, but it's not limited to the body as a prisoner, but it can even go to the astral plane, but moving in the soul form to the astral plane and taking on the astral body, which is already moving around with some of the consciousness of soul in it. And this is the area where many of our dreams come from, our experiences. There's a kind of delicate interplay where it also tunes into the etheric. I won't get into that now, of how the remembrances work and how the impulses come for the experiences that are given on the astral plane. Some of these come from the unconscious mind, which is the etheric plane, but it's a little bit too much to get into here. But then the causal plane above it, soul can then move to the causal plane, pick up the body that's stationed there. Not only is there one body in many of these universes, but several, depending upon the state of consciousness that the individual has. Then the mental plane. This is generally the state that a person can reach if at any time he sees the blue light in act. This is the blue light of the Mahanta. Generally, a person, before he translates, will get to the mental plane before he goes. This is what it means, because the blue light comes from the mental plane. But you may see it just as you're getting into act, which means you're between the first and the second planes. Some of this gets really esoteric, and I don't get into explanations because one-on-one I can explain it to you because you ask your questions and I respond to the question. But when there are several thousand of us here, it gets too complicated. Therefore, I usually stick to stories to show you the way. The deeper instruction comes from the inspiration you get from reading the Ek discourses, and then the real teaching comes on the inner planes as you, soul, move into the other areas, into the invisible worlds with the Mahanta. The Mahanta only means the inner master form of the outer master form. And this is all it means. The Mahanta is the inner and the living Ek master is the outer. I'm explaining some of these things because even though they're basic to many of you, they're not so basic to a great number of you. There are something like 30 or 40% of the people in ACT now are within their first or second year of study. And so you who are in the higher levels of ACT must remember this and go back again and again and explain those things which seem so elementary that there's something that a person would say, well, it goes without saying, but it doesn't go without saying. There are always people coming into ACT, and these are the ones who need to know the basic simple truths. And so the guideline of teaching, which is repeat, 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 holds so true for you who are the Arahatas or the teachers in ACT.
Many people don't live spirituality because they stopped believing. They live because they got tired of waiting. That if something is real, it should work quickly. But the inner world doesn't work like the outer worlds. The inner growth is not information, it is transformation. And transformation requires time. If understanding came too fast, we would use it to escape life or feel superior or avoid humility. So soul is taught gradually at the speed of love. Across religions, many people experience the same frustrations. They pray, they meditate, read and chant, but still ask why my life hasn't changed. But change does not arrive as fireworks. It arrives as maturity. You become calmer, less reactive, more patient, and often you don't notice it happening unless you look back. We live in times that celebrate speed, quick answers, quick revelations, quick certainty. But spirituality asks us something very different. It asks us to slow down enough to be changed. That is popular, but that is real. If you feel behind, if others feel further than you, if your journey feels quiet and ordinary, you are not failing. You are being shaped quietly. Growth is growth. In the next part, we will talk about what happens when the spiritual growth stops being internal and starts showing in how we live, love, and treat others. Because the path doesn't end with understanding. It ends with how we show up in the world. Thank you so much for taking this time with me today. If you enjoyed this video or if it helped you to see your spiritual journey in a new way, please like, share and subscribe to my channel. I love connecting with you all, so leave your thoughts or questions in the comment section. Let's keep this conversation going. And remember, your spiritual journey is your journey, unique and precious. Take it at your own pace. Don't be pressured. And know you are always welcome here. I love you all. May the blessings be.